Hello and welcome to our session today entitled Cross-Department Value of the Civic Platform. My name is Brian Wick and I head up product marketing for Accela, and joining me today is Amber DeTavio, Vice President of Product Management, and Kathy Grossi, Vice President of Product Management. And we're going to be talking a little bit about connected government and the deployment of the platform and really the value that that can bring. Many of you may have seen this slide before. It really talks about our go-to-market strategies and product packaging. You see our Civic applications on the upper right-hand side, and we've got those categorized into building communities, growing businesses, and protecting citizens. And on the far right, you see customized solutions as well as partner solutions. And all of those out-of-the-box pre-packaged solutions are accessed by three types of users. The first is public access, and that could be a business, a developer, or even a resident that's looking for services from their state or local government agency. We have citizen access portals, very intuitive and dynamic and engaging environments for those users to come in and do business, interactions and transactions with their agency. We also have a staff portal, and this is where the agency employees come to work each morning and they see that the requests that are in their queues and all the data associated with those and the workflows associated with those, and they process those requests, whether they be permits, licenses, or whatever. And then finally on the bottom, we have the field workers, and they're out, they're code enforcers, they're inspectors, work crews, and they're out in the field doing every different kind of function in association with what the back office agency staff is working on. So they need the ability to work on a mobile device, work online and offline, have all the data at their fingertips that they need to perform their function, as well as capture data, including photographs and videos, all in the field, and then download that automatically back into the main environment of Accela. So this is sort of at the high level how our solutions are framed, as well as how the users utilize those solutions. But the one thing you see on the bottom right is the Civic platform. The Civic platform is the set of foundational technologies that really support all of the different solutions you see on top, including the custom solutions. It provides the process automation, business logic, the reporting and analytics, the security and identity management, the various configurations associated with each of these solutions, all the document review and document service functions, including geospatial information, utilization and capabilities across those user groups, and all the communications necessary. So what we're providing here is a consistent and uniform foundational technology that's configured into all of these various solutions that agencies use. So now let's talk about if an agency is perhaps managing multiple departments, business licensing, permitting, a service request, whatever it might be. And they've gone the route of choosing point solutions across each of those functions. So what often happens is that the process and the data sharing is often very manual and paper-based. And we're going to talk a lot more about how different departments, as well as different agencies, the benefits of sharing data across their functions. But we've seen this so many times where departments really want to share data, but it's manual, paper-based, and all of the downside associated with that, including rekeying and lost documents and forms and plans, et cetera, et cetera. What's even more important, though, is that the integrity of the data is compromised when it's being spread around through multiple departments. A lack of data standards, including data models and terminology and so forth, it just requires heavy manual manipulation in order for one department or agency to actually make sense of the data coming from different other departments. And if it's not done, the decisions based from that agency or across departments are always just one piece of the puzzle. And I think that bullet's there because if not done, the fact that it's so challenging and costly And, laborious means it's often not done. And so a lot of the decisions that agencies make, some key decisions, are made with incomplete information. Custom integrations across these different point systems are expensive and hard to maintain. And so not only do they have to be technology integrations, but what happens when each of those point solutions goes into a big release, a new update? Oftentimes those integrations are broken or they've got to be reworked. And of course, that's just time and cost. There's multiple vendors and technologies to manage, right? And that's just IT overhead. When IT in particular has to manage multiple vendors, you've got the relationships, you've got the familiarity with the technologies, you've got training issues associated with all sorts of different point solutions. The other thing from the citizen-facing side is that they are looking oftentimes for multiple services across different departments. And if there are different point solutions, oftentimes there's separate components or separate environments for the citizen. One example that we always like to use is the restaurant opening. If I go into a new area and I want to open a restaurant, well, I may have to get building permits for some of the remodeling. I may have to get health permits and inspections for my kitchen. I may have to get ABC licenses and inspections for selling liquor on premises. And of course, I need my business license. And so if my local agency has got different environment systems for all of those things and run those environments very autonomously, then I've got to go from one department to the next, a different UI, a different set of information. Oftentimes, it's the same set that I'm having to provide multiple times. And just the time and cost that it's costing me and the frustration as a prospective restaurant owner is significant. And agencies, if there's one thing that we're learning from our agency customers, it's that they truly want to improve citizen engagement, and they want that single pane of glass, that one place to go for their citizens, just for the convenience aspect. They just want to be easier to do business with. And then the final challenge that we see is that some processes still have an online component and then a paper-based component that may, there's an omni-channel requirement. There's paper introduced somewhere in an automated process for whatever reason, signatures, whatever it might be. And that just makes things even more challenging and less likely to actually have any integration. So a lot of agencies, this is what they look like right now. They're just sitting here struggling with how do we manage all this and sort of sharpen it up, especially for the citizens' sake. So now we talk a little bit more about the value of the platform. And you've probably heard all about our Civic applications, and we talk about the value of the pre-built solutions. But the platform provides significant value, again, especially in these cross-department deployments. Departments clearly depend on each other for certain citizen services, and many come to us with that need to share permit, license, inspection data, code enforcement information, and do that all digitally. It supports the concept of connected government, which agencies are talking about a lot, the industry's talking about a lot, with that complete picture to make faster, smarter, better, and safer decisions. Just quick examples, code enforcement, identifying issues with a property such as unpermitted additions and safety issues associated with that. They can immediately understand if the proper permits and inspections have been occurring on a piece of property that they're identifying. Structured data, including occupants and hazardous materials with emergency response. Permit data, including liquor stores, business licensing data with liquor stores and construction sites, looking for concentrations, getting the visualization to see concentrations of that, because those two items, one with the liquor store aspect of it as well as theft from construction sites, means law enforcement now gets a heads up. They get a little bit of insight into where maybe they can adjust some of their patrols and perhaps address potential problems. Non-licensed businesses, short-term rentals, again, a heavy code enforcement element to it. So another aspect of it is it just drives data standardization with that less duplication and waste. And I've already talked about how important that is. I think data standardization and consistency in the structures and the data models is absolutely huge in creating this connected government environment. It also does increase, as I mentioned, the citizen satisfaction with the digital front door across multiple services, which is what all citizens want. And then finally, when it comes to IT, having a consistent technology means there's just reduced administrative overhead, including training within those environments, both for the IT staff as well as the end user staff, because those users, if they are in fact touching multiple systems, are looking at a consistent environment. There's fewer vendor relationships to manage. It can often mean increased discounts with larger seat counts. So if an IT organization can bring in projects from across multiple departments, many software vendors, including Accela, provide increased discounts with larger seat counts. And so that's another means to save money for them. And then when it comes to hiring IT staff, and we're seeing this all the time, especially now in the era of COVID, the fact that if they could reduce their IT staff because they're utilizing a consistent technology means lots of, a much better environment versus having to recruit, hire, and then retain very expensive IT staff. So those are just some of the aspects of it. I've already touched on this, but this actually came from a customer of ours and was their diagram as to how their departments were really interested in sharing data and working very hard to do that. Obviously, on the building permitting side, planning and building work hand in hand on sharing plans and zoning information. Code enforcement is huge with code violations, citations, conditions on future requests, areas of concern when it comes to granting permits. Fire and building often work very closely together in construction, where the building permitting components all have to be aligned and progress at the exact same time as the fire inspections and permitting for things like fire escapes and sprinkler systems and so forth. Occupational certifications and building permitting. A lot of integration when it comes to trade certifications and occupational licensing components. So all of the subcontractors that are working within an environment have to be certified and licensed. And so sharing that information just removes the burden of having to check that manually. Public Works, they undertake lots of infrastructure projects that require plan permits and inspections and plan reviews, et cetera, et cetera. And so data sharing within those systems is something that we see all the time. And then rental registration, short-term rental, and we're seeing this with long-term rental registration as well, and how there's code enforcement components there, there's a licensing and permitting component there. So all of that data is shared. So, and then of course, service request management. When service requests come in from citizens, they could touch any one of these departments for rectifying whatever the request is. So there's no shortage of opportunity for agencies who are struggling to share this kind of data and this kind of model to really automate that. And a consistent platform is a great way to do that. Now, our platform, it's called the Civic platform, as opposed to some other platforms out there. It's built specifically for community development and regulatory functions, CDR. It's got GIS and portal and a citizen portal tailored for specific state and local government domains. And you saw those with our Civic applications. Out of the box checklist capability, mobile clients come with our environments, inspections and rescheduling capabilities built in to the platform functionality, application, amendment, renewals, built for regulatory processes, fee schedules that are aligned and designed in how state and local government agencies manage their fee collections. APIs specifically for government environments, and then feature toggles and user permissions that are all aligned, again, for this environment. We bring this slide to light because what we find is that if someone is going with a generic platform, they're missing many of the capabilities that come right within our Civic platform. Again, supporting the Civic applications, but within the platform are things very, very specific to state and local government agencies, and means that if somebody's building a solution from a generic platform, all of this is already there. With the generic platforms, they have to actually build that from scratch. And here's a sample. I won't go into all of these of customers that are utilizing the Civic platform in just this way. They've deployed it across multiple departments for the reason of sharing data as well as process elements, process components across departments and agencies. But I will point out Charlotte County, Florida, their process includes taking their permit application and information and farming it out, sharing it out with many other departments, including utilities, public safety, fire, public works, community services, real estate services, as well as the state health department. So not only are they sharing that information across departments within their jurisdiction, they're jumping up at the state level to share that as well. And prior to Accela, they had to get 12 copies of the docs, which could be thousands of pages, from their citizens, and then distribute those. And now they do that all through their electronic document review process. They get all the documents in, it's one copy, it's electronic. They share that out to the various departments. They do all of their review and markup electronically. It all comes back to their community development department, and then they collaborate at that time with the customer. So the customer is not having to worry about other departments. They don't have to come into the office. It's all done electronically, and it's all done through that one entity. And so, Charlotte County absolutely acknowledges the fact that it's an enhanced user experience, as well as eliminating all of the duplicate effort, waste, time, and cost associated with the way they had to do it with their 12 documents before. And then my final example here is with Omaha, Nebraska. They've done a lot of cross-department sharing of information, but the one highlighted here is, as I mentioned earlier, the community development, or the building solution, the permitting aspect of their business, and then the trade licensing aspect. And so instead of having a manual effort to get the certifications and track the licensure of the folks that are working within their projects, including electricians, plumbers, general contractors, mechanical contractors, and more, all of that is done now with their Accela building solution and their Accela occupational licensing solution, and that data is shared from one system to the next. And so obviously there's no duplicate effort. In fact, in the quote, they comment on the integration with fire prevention, utilities, public works, as well as with the occupational or trade licensing. And it's reduced turnaround time and improved customer service and experience as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Amber and Kathy, and they're going to show you a little bit more about what this integration might look like.
All right, thanks, Brian. So I'm going to start by talking about the citizen portal. Brian mentioned, we also refer to this as the digital front door. It's the entry point for the resident to access all the services from the city. And it's important, this is a very user-friendly experience, that all the services are all available all in one place. Even though we know that behind each one of these, it may be routed to a different department, and there may be a different process for each one. For example, a snow removal request will probably go to the code enforcement department. Tree maintenance might go to public works, or maybe a third-party vendor. A pothole will go to public works. Abandoned vehicle would go to potentially the code enforcement department. So it's important that we really remove a lot of that complexity of the processes from the resident. They probably don't really care which department takes care of it. They just need to request a service or report an issue, and that issue needs to be resolved. So this digital front door allows us to really put that layer on top to make that more of a seamless experience, and then on the back end, route it to the right department. When you're using a platform such as the Civic platform, you can do that because all of the data is housed in one place. So let's go ahead and take a look at one of the scenarios here to see how this works. We're going to report graffiti on a public property. So the resident sees the graffiti, they come to the city's website and they click on report graffiti on the public property. And they answer a series of questions, which may impact the actual process that happens on the back end. So in this case, where they're reporting the graffiti on the public library, and they're going to provide the location. So we know exactly where it's at. Again, could impact who we assign it to. They're going to upload the photos, which are going to make it really easy for us to verify whether this is a valid issue without having to send somebody out on site. And then once that submission is complete, that will then be sent to the back office staff. So let's take a look at what that looks like in the back office. All right, so you'll see that graffiti report show up here in the record list, and the intake person can take a look at all the details. They can review even the pictures, and they can decide whether they have enough information to just automatically assign this to the proper department, or maybe somebody else needs to go out and take a look. So in this case, they feel like they have enough information to just send the crew out there to go clean it up. They assign it to the Public Works Department, and this automatically shows up in their queue. Once they've done the work, then they can come mark this one as complete. And all of this information is available to everybody that is part of this process at any time, including the citizen. If they have requested to receive updates, every time or each step in this process, they're going to get an email notification about what has happened and if it's been resolved or not. All right, let's look at another scenario. This is a pothole report, and it's going to follow pretty much the same process. So we're going to review here in the back office a report of a giant pothole in the street that caused somebody to get a flat tire. We're going to review this information and then assign it again to the proper crew or person to go take a look. So in this case, we're going to assign this one also to the Public Works Department. And once that gets assigned, this is going to immediately show up in their job list on their mobile device to go investigate this. And then again, once that has been completed or looked at, a work order would then be generated, as you see here, where they can then collect additional information such as the time. They can put down all of the materials that were used to fix the pothole. And then again, all of these status updates will then be reported back to the person that reported the issue. So this gives you just a sneak peek into some of these processes. What I wanted to call out here as well is that, as you saw between the graffiti report and review and the pothole, is the process was very similar. So when you use a platform where all of the departments and all the users are using the same technology, the processes become very standard. Access to the information is really easy to get to, and you don't have to train your staff on multiple applications for all of these different various use cases. All right, I'm going to show you one more scenario. This is for fire hydrant inspections for a fire department. And I'm going to start here on the map, and I'm going to show you all of the fire hydrants that are in this area that are up for inspection. And all this information comes from the Public Works Department that shows up here on the map. And the fire captain is able to use this data for all the fire departments on a map to be able to visually see the work that needs to be done. And it makes it really easy for them to then assign the inspections to their crew. So we're going to go ahead and assign these inspections as well as some other hydrants that are also up for inspection soon, since we're going to be in the area. That'll help them be more efficient, get some of that work done all at the same time instead of going out there on two separate occasions. And all of these are going to then show up in the queue for the crew to work on them. All right, so now that we're looking at Accela Mobile for the fire inspector, on the right side, you see the hydrants that are ready for inspection, display on the map. And then on the left, you see a list of the inspections. Let's go ahead and select one of these hydrants and perform the inspection. All right, so let's go to the checklist, and you're going to see that all of the individual items that need to be inspected are set to default to pass so that the inspector doesn't have to update each one. And they can also drill into each one and look at the history to see if anything had happened or the condition of this in the past. And they can also attach any photos. So in this one, we're going to go ahead and attach a photo and then mark what needs to be repaired. And then we're going to go back and result the inspection. I'm going to refer this one to the water department because it's in need of pretty serious repair. Now, if they're inspecting multiple hydrants at the same time, they can select multiple all at once and then give them all the same result. So this is going to save them a lot of time. And because these hydrants are all in need of the same repair, I'm going to refer all of them to the water department. Now, this information immediately is sent to the back office and it's assigned to somebody in that water department to repair, which could also be available on their mobile device to go ahead and do the assigned work. So as you can see, all of this data is flowing from department to department based on the different scenarios and criteria based on the processes that have been defined. And the information is available immediately to any of the appropriate and relevant parties, including the public. So when you have a connected system or platform like this, it allows you to share workflows, to share data, and to be able to access information when you need it. Now I'm going to turn the time over to Kathy to talk to us a little bit about how all this data can then be used.
Thanks, Amber. So Amber covered the workflow and how integrating workflow across departments is very beneficial to all of the different departments. And I'm going to now cover a few use cases about the data and why having data in a single solution and a single platform across departments is beneficial. With this cross-department implementation, agencies can track performance and make better decisions based on data from all departments. So for example, in Accela Insights, the agency can see total number of service requests across channels and then see average turn times for requests across the different departments. They can also see the impact of website changes on all the departments, such as the correlation between increases in online requests and decreases in service turn times. This can help inform the agency for resource allocation and website management. Another area where agencies can compare data is around permits and revenue associated with permits. From this dashboard, the agency could see permit turn times for new construction and renovation are decreasing, but fire is not. The longer turn times to complete fire inspections may end up slowing down construction, which could in turn cost residents and contractors more. Since a city can see these trends across the building and fire departments, they can then react and either reallocate resources or make adjustments before there's a significant impact to the public. So enabling departments to share data across all of the departments and across the agency helps them fine-tune their operations and become more productive. As you can see from the examples that Brian discussed earlier and from our demo, a platform has a broad set of capabilities that all departments can leverage and can empower an agency to be more productive and serve their community better. And when all departments use a single platform, the benefit is exponential since they can share workflows and data across individuals and across departments. Thank you.